Well, it's been raining here most of the afternoon. It's about 6 o'clock right now, and I'm going to finish putting this tag bucket back together here. I didn't get the tear down of the cylinder on the right hand side here. I didn't get that on film, but we're going to be putting it back together. The gland nut that went in here was leaking, and I got it tore apart. And the backup ring here was tore, and the O-ring itself had some marks in it here somewhere. So I don't know if a piece of shit come around. Yeah, it's right there. I don't know if a piece of shit got in there or what, but it was leaking pretty good, so I had to go to a hydraulic repair warehouse, and I got some O-rings here, and went ahead and I've got some spares there, and I've got this gland nut all ready to go here. We're going to get it put back on the cylinder here. I got the cylinder in the vise, so I got to slide the gland nut on here, and then we'll put the piston on and get that back in place there. I got to get some grease. All right. A little bit of grease here. It's got wet getting out of the truck, so it's spray it down, wipe it off. I'm going to put a little film of grease on there. I didn't bother putting any new packings in or anything. These are all in good shape. It was just mainly this O-ring and this backup ring, the orange ring there, that was leaking. So we'll put a small film of grease on here so we can get it back together. And we've had this bucket here for the bucket and the payloader for 5 years this month. The bucket came in, and it must have been near September. We got the loader in August of 2013. It's a 2012 model that had about 150 hours on it. Alright, so we got that gland nut slid up on there. Now we'll get the piston itself cleaned up. Kind of half-ass wipe it down. But these wiper seals and O-rings are good on it, so we don't need to bother with doing anything more to that than what's going on here now. So we'll just move this up a little bit here. Now this one threads on to the shaft here. Alright, we'll get the piston threaded on the end of the rod here. Alright, so that's cranked on there pretty good. Clean this all off. Alright. of the cylinder. I actually want to wipe some grease on this, as long as I've got it apart here, just so it'll go together without tearing anything. Let's wipe some on this part of the gland nut as well, just so that when that mates into there, it'll not overwork them O-rings. Alright, so we got a fair amount of grease on that. Go ahead and get you set up over here. We got the base of the cylinder in the crotch of the hinge point there. We'll try to get this pushed. A couple of whiskers on there. Stay. That's threaded in a fair amount. Let's get this in position. Get the pin back in it. Put my hoses on before I get too far here. Flat face O-ring type, which are decent. Just gotta make sure the O-ring don't fall out. It's better than pipe thread. And then the cylinder has straight thread O-ring ports on it. This guy here is out of whack, so I gotta tighten up the gland nut on him once I get him in position. Right. Let's hook up this guy. Our O-ring's in there, we're good. I gotta squish that back down a little bit. I got that guy tight. I just want to make sure that hose is comfortable. A little bit of a twist in it. Okay, so we can just slide this back in. Gotta get it closer to where it pins. Got a pin in here. Set something underneath it so we can get this hose in place there. And the O-ring's there. Let's see if I can thread this guy on there. Alright. So that's threaded into place. We'll just set this guy across there like that. And we can get this hose on there. Alright, now that hose wants to run about parallel with that that cylinder, so we'll get him adjusted right there. Now, we'll go ahead and tighten this guy up. Come on, get up there. There. Alright, now we can okay, that's tight. We'll set this back down in here. Okay, that's in there. We got a grease circuit at the top. Okay, now the painstaking job of lining this guy up. Turn this rod in. And bolt the ends up. There. Okay, I don't know. Take this guy, lift this up a little bit, shove this bar in here. Grease circuit at the top. Then Now we'll take a peek underneath here. Give me a hammer and a punch. Alright, now. Alright, we're off about 1/4 of a hole there. So we'll go ahead and move that cylinder again. Okay, let's see what that is. That might work. And we'll try to tap that into there. Ooh. Okay, my timing mark is off a little bit, but I think we can probably adjust that with a lineup tool. Got a couple right here. Got you there. Pull this out of here. Yeah, I gotta put pressure on it. Off a little bit. Line up pull down in there. There. Alright, now we can just drive our pin down in. Okay, that's in. Now we're gonna have to nut that pin. I'm gonna roll this bucket back a little bit and set her down so I can get after this gland down a little more. I gotta get my bar out. I got to put pressure on that. A little easier to tighten when that cylinder is in place there. Alright, so we are tight here. And that should do it. Where this was leaking was right around this gland nut here. You can kind of see how it's all messy in here. So, yeah, I better put that bolt in, and that's gonna do it. Okay, we're all back together. Hoses are tight. Pin is in, cylinder's back together. We'll go ahead and cycle this a bunch of times just to make sure we've got it together so that we can get on feeding in the morning with it without any problems. We'll set you here. Okay, let's see here. Nice and dry. It was leaking right there. So nice and dry. That took care of that problem. Okay, it's still raining out. It's about 6:30, 6:45 now. We're all done with this bucket. Got it all back together. This is a tag rollout bucket. We like it because we can get way above our mixer, and by the time we dump into it, we're not getting the cutting edge here anywhere near the screws inside the mixer, and this will lift up high enough, and that cutting edge of the bucket would be like 13 foot off the ground. Now we've had a considerable amount of trouble with this bucket ever since it was new. The hinge pins are right here. This is the main hinge pin. Now I'm going to dig this crap out of this side. Well, this side's pretty well. Take this crap out of here. Alright, so what this had when it was new, it had a collar on here, and there was 3 spots for Allen screws that went in. This pin was threaded, and the holes were sloppy, so that the Allen screw had a little bit of room to move around in there, and it was countersunk so that the feed wouldn't wear the head of the Allen screw off. Now, it was just a short time after it was, got a little crack here and here. Got to address that sometime. These patches were put on a while ago. Well, anyways, that collar with the 3 set screws, after about a month old, them set screws started to break. Didn't matter how much we greased it, and what it was is from this pin turning against them. I'd call them, they're not set screws, they're Allen screws that went in to hold this pin from moving in or out. Now, they had the holes sloppy so that it could turn just a little bit, but it would round them heads of them Allen screws off. They were 10 millimeter or 3/8 Allen screws. After a while, it got to the point where the threads were no good in the pin itself. So we kind of did a no-no, knowing ahead of time what we were going to be getting into. We ended up welding this all the way around here, and again on this side. Now the only trouble with that is this pin, although it fits kind of tight, it doesn't fit all that tight. And once you weld something like that, all your stress is going to be held on the weld. It just kept breaking out. So we knew we didn't do the right thing, but we had no other choice to hold that pin in. Now another idea would have been just to put a plate on here, weld the plate on each side, just let that pin oscillate in there. But the whole idea of where your grease points is and your hinge point, whatever you want your hinge point to be, where your grease point is. So eventually what it ended up doing was it ended up breaking this heavy wall tube out that the pin hinged in. It broke it out on both sides. Now, knowing that we already did something wrong by welding the pin to the heavy wall tube, we figured we had to have it line bored so that to make this true again, so that this side here would be perfectly straight with this side, because they both have to hinge with each other. So the one place I called, they said they don't do line boring anymore, and I ended up taking it down to Milton Cat, and they line bored it, and now all these wires just broke out. When they line bored it, the whole thing was off. It was never straight from the day it was new. So what they did was they put a new piece of heavy wall tubing in on this outside here. And then what they did was they put a 5/8 bolt to hold the pin in. That is a better idea than the frickin' junk design that this bucket came with when it was new. You can see the hole that they cut in the bucket here, and then went out through the other side over there in order for them to line bore this. So they fixed her all up, did a great job. It's all true again and whatnot. Got the bucket home, and they didn't dump the bucket at all. They They brought it in with a crane off the trailer that I took it down there with. I got the bucket home, put it on the loader, dumped it a couple times, and the bucket hit, like this part of the bucket hit right here. So I figured that they didn't quite maybe, you know, when they trued this hinge point here, I figured they maybe had walked it back a little bit. So I figured we'd just deal with it, and I figured I'd have to shave part of the frame out here, which was no big deal. So we ran it a couple more times, and the damn bucket wouldn't come back down onto its saddle right. Dump this here. Okay. I'm out of this pig. All right, so what we discovered, it was on a Thursday night, we discovered that this cylinder on this side was broke down in here. And what probably brought all our problems on is the main hinge point of this bucket not being true, it working against itself all the time, and these cylinders working against each other. It broke this cylinder. And once this cylinder broke, that cylinder over there was doing all the work, and it caused this twisting effect to rip these hinge points out of the actual bucket itself. Then you can see there's a grease line here, and that's where it needs to pivot from. So it broke this rod inside. I took this cylinder apart. I had a broken rod. Now it's Thursday night, it's Friday morning by now, and I can't get a cylinder rod for this for an overnight delivery for a Saturday, because Tag doesn't ship out stuff overnight. So I called up my man down to Mountain Cat, told him what I had happened. I said, geez, you know, this rod was broke. We didn't know it before I brought it to you. It's not your fault. You know, they did a beautiful job getting this bucket all back together. So I said, is there any way that you can do anything with this cylinder? You think this cylinder will match anything? He says, you know what, we can make you a rod. Just bring it down. So I took the rod down to him, the broken one. He measured it. Of course, you seen me when I put that one there together. They had to thread the end of it to match the nut that went on that held the piston on there, and then they machined it to fit the piston, of course. They took this eye off this cylinder here. They cut that off beautifully. Just, I don't know what the heck they used. They used some kind of a saw or something. They plucked that eye off in there and welded it to the end of this rod. And they had me up and going by 3 o'clock Friday afternoon for about 500 bucks, I think it was. And Tag wanted somewhere in the neighborhood of like $1,600 for that rod, and I wasn't going to see it till like Tuesday, and this bucket had already been down for, oh God, it was a good 2 weeks. Milton Cat was swamped by the time I got to him. Now another thing that's going on with this bucket, we noticed that whenever it would rain, this channel right here, the way this bucket is made, this top is all one piece, and it's formed and then welded right here on the back side of the rounded part of the bucket. They've got something with one of their welds here. Well, it's right there. That's not welded. All right, it's not welded there. Water could get in, and it did, and there's water in it right now. there's water in this formed angle. Now, I brought it up to their attention. Of course, we're all broke out here. We got stress cracks, so we're getting water in there, obviously. Now, from these stress cracks that I've got to weld here sometime. Now, I brought it to their attention, and I said, hey, you know, you've got to watch what you're doing here. You know, that's not welded there either. You need to weld that completely. Weld that seam so water can't get in there. We're welded here. We're welded here. Not there. Well, no, it is welded solid there. So I said, you gotta weld that. No, we've never had that problem before. So well, you have it now. So their solution was, go ahead and weld it. We'll give you a quart of paint. They gave me a quart of paint, but I did not want to weld it and have to deal with it. I said, we'll just drill a hole in it. I'm going to get a drill bit out here because every so often we have to okay. So every so often we just come over to this little hole here and we just pump it. Well, it's yeah. Now the water is down in here. I curl that back, water will piss out of that hole. So that was their solution. And you know, I should have welded it and painted it, did all that crap, but I was quite unhappy with them ever since the situation with the collar and set screws and all that crap, because I wanted a couple of new pins, and I asked them, you know, is there something else you have designed to hold that pin in? And they said, no, we don't have anything. Now, when Milton Cat got done with this, they told me, you know, that wasn't true, and it wasn't true from day one. They said, hey, you should bring that to their attention, and I did. I called them up. I said, hey, you gotta check out your buckets a little bit. We've had trouble with ours ever since it was new, and it's 5 years old now. And this was in February of 2017, February or March, when we had Milton Cat work on this loader, this bucket. And it's we got this bucket like September of 2013, and so I brought it to their attention. I talked to the guy from TAG, and I said, you know, if you don't have to believe me, you know, talk to the guys down to Milton Cat. He said, well, I can tell you right now, we're not going to reimburse you anything for your repairs. I wasn't expecting it. I just wanted to bring it to their attention. Hey, you gotta check your stuff out a little bit here, and you know, I'll leave it at that, and whatever. But about 3 weeks ago, I had to replace the 2-inch pin that went into this cylinder mount. On that side, I did do a video on it. It's a 2-inch pin. It's like 14 inches long or something. Now the problem they have with that is you got a grease zerk right here. This is where all the pivoting is done. It's bolted here. That pin does not move in here. They drilled a hole the length of the pin, and then drilled a hole crossways right where it comes through the cylinder rod end. I don't know why they would have to do that, because there's a grease zerk right there on that rod end, and that's where both pins broke. I replaced the one on the left a couple 3 weeks ago, and I replaced this one back in I believe it was December. Both pins broke in the grease zerk hole. Now there is a considerable amount of torque put on them pins And we keep everything greased. It's not like it's anything to do with a lack of grease. Now, this one we had a bear of a time with. Look at the, you can look how tight that bolt is to this gusset bracket here. Look how tight that bolt is right there. You cannot get a socket on there, and you cannot get a box end of a wrench down on that bottom part. It's almost like this damn bucket was made in somebody's backyard. I honestly feel that way. I honestly feel this was made in somebody's backyard. Now they got all kinds of freaking room right here. Put the freaking bolt right there. So somebody's got their measurements wrong or something, because both of the freaking bolts that hold this pin in are right there. They're on the inside of the gusset bracket to the side of the cylinder. Well, that rant's about over with on this bucket. We've got kind of another problem here with this machine. We have a lower radiator hose that blew out over the weekend. The boys took that off today, and we cannot get one until next week. There is not a lower radiator hose for a JCB 54170 telehandler in the States. The damn thing has to come out of the UK, and we won't see it till next week. This damn machine is notorious for breaking down on the weekend, and or just days before, and we wait for parts. So, alright folks, got that off my chest now, and we'll catch you at the next video.